Imagine this. You grow up idolizing your dad, and then your dad dies. And then you find out that the dad you basically worshipped your whole life had 3 kids with 3 different women that wasn't your mom. You may still love your dad, but you may probably never look at him the same way again. Well, that's how I felt when I watched this piece of crap called The Force Awakens. Let's get with it. I'm a weird guy. When I launch onto a franchise, I stick to it to the bitter end, even watching the crappy ones. For instance, I have seen all the Jeepers Creepers movies, which is odd since I don't like any of the Jeepers Creepers movies, including the so-called good original. But for some reason, I just watch them all. And if there's a Friday the 13th part in Infinity, where Jason goes to Santa's workshop and slaughters all the elves, yeah, I'll bash it, but I'll still watch it. But this was the only time in my life I abandoned a beloved franchise. That's right, this made me so angry that I swore I would never watch another film in the franchise. Well, I kinda cheated. I did watch the side movies like Solo and Rogue One, but I refused to watch the other films in the trilogy, and I have stuck to it, and never once have I been tempted. So why do I hate this film so much? On technical merits, it's at least competently made, but so what? I know everybody hates the holiday special, and in truth, it is pretty horrible. But honestly, I would rather watch it 100 times before I watch The Force Awakens again. I'm not even close to kidding. At least that one had the Boba Fett feature. This one has nothing of substance. First of all, it was completely unnecessary. Return of the Jedi was the greatest finale to a series ever made. It tied up all the loose ends, the good guys were triumphant, and it left you feeling all warm and fuzzy inside. There was nothing left to say. Now it turns out they didn't win anything at all. Luke has renounced the Jedi way and gone into exile. That's like finding out Billy Graham turned into an atheist. Han and Leia are, for all intents and purposes, divorced, and Han has gone back to being a criminal. Forget the great love story and Han's redemption arc. Now he's just a regular bandit again. And yeah, Han gets killed by his own ungrateful son, right in the middle of the movie. That's just plain rude. And come to think of it, I think Obi-Wan got killed halfway through the original Star Wars too. Oh yeah, this movie is basically just a crappy remake of the original. So yeah, on top of it being blasphemy to the classic original, it's also a boring formulaic mess. There's also a wannabe female Boba Fett who has not an ounce of the original's coolness or charisma, and there's some decrepit old man who's supposed to be the next Palpatine who probably has trouble making it to the toilet when he craps. And yes, I hate the characters too. Rey is basically a lady Luke Skywalker who is somehow perfect at everything she does, so it's impossible to sympathize with her. She doesn't need to train at all. There's also a fake Han Solo and blah 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 blah. Everything in this crappy film is either a blatant lazy ripoff of the original or a sacrilegious spitting on of the same originals they're supposed to be doing justice to. They take characters we love and either kill them off or ruin them with new character changes, all the while replacing them with new boring characters we couldn't care less about. It turns out the new fake Vader, Kylo Ren, was Han and Leia's son who was trained to be a Jedi by Luke and went to the dark side instead. Luke became disillusioned and basically lost his faith. And get this, the little brat idolizes Grandpa Vader. Did someone forget to mention that his pawpaw turned against the Empire at the end? He was a traitor. Guess it doesn't matter. And by the way, Disney, I don't hate this movie because I'm a sexist or a racist. I don't hate Rey because she's a woman. Last time I checked, Leia was a woman, and I loved her. I hate Rey because she's a boring, lifeless character. And I don't hate the black character because he's black either. Once again, unless I'm mistaken, Lando was black and I dug him too. It's obvious all they cared about was filling diversity quotas. Before I get mad and pop a blood vessel, I want to thank 2 people. First of all, I want to thank all the people who complained so much about how the prequels suck. So much so that George Lucas sold his beloved franchise to the soulless woke conglomerate known as Disney. I hope you're all satisfied. In fact, when I was a kid, people used to say how awful the prequels were, which they weren't, by the way. But now, after a truly abominable film, they now look back and say, hey, maybe the prequels weren't so bad after all. I'm glad the prequels are getting a fair hearing now. That's the only good thing this awful excuse for a film accomplished. And last, I want to thank Disney for ruining my childhood. George Lucas hates this movie too. So as far as I'm concerned, this movie is not canon, since George Lucas is Star Wars, in my opinion. So to me, this is like Dragon Ball GT. As far as I'm concerned, it never happened. Believe it or not, this was actually acclaimed when it first came out. I guess people were so desperate for more Star Wars that they were just more forgiving for anything. But now, thankfully, time has put it in its right place. This movie flat out sucks, and I hate it. Maybe next time, I'll review something I actually like. See you later on the Hillbilly Review channel.